So, John, today we want to talk about family history with you. What do you already know about family history?
I don't know too much. It's to find your ancestors so you can do the temple work for them.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to talk about some of the blessings that come from searching out your ancestors and finding your ancestors. And there's obviously the temple work that you can do and all of those blessings. But we want to talk about something that most people don't think about usually with family history. And we want to start by watching this clip. It's called Courage. I can get it from him. It's like a minute long. And we're going to talk about the blessing that she saw from talking to her own ancestors.
I admonish all families, search out your heritage. It's important to know as far as possible those who came before us. We discover something about ourselves when we learn about our ancestors.
First explosion is bad. Those sinners have been going desperate out in the water. I was alone, so I had the boat running, and I used to take hold of your hand and pull it up in the boat. And that's what I was doing the rest of the ride.
You know, when people bring up Pearl Harbor, I remember a lot of respect that I have in my grandfather.
Everyone has things that they've gone through, things that they've survived. You know, finding out these stories from stories or journals or any kind of information that might be passed down, it really can help us with the things that we deal with.
Well, if he had enough great and courage to be in Pearl Harbor, then I guess I can go through this little trial. I kind of feel like it's one of my traits, you know, to have courage, and I kind of get it from him, and I love him so very much.
Knowing his experiences really helped him be a little bit more real to me.
Whenever I watch these family history videos, I always feel the spirit really strongly. And I know it's super important that we do our family history. What was one of the things that you saw in this video that explain why family history can be such a blessing to us in our lives?
At the end of the video, it was said that knowing a little bit about his history made him seem more real. And the girl said also that she feels like she has a trait from her ancestor of courage from her grandfather, because she can readily identify that trait within herself based on what she knows from him.
And you hit it right on the head, is when we do our family history, we start noticing characteristics that we have that our ancestors have. Have you, as you've thought about maybe even your dad or your mom or your grandparents, do you notice any similar traits between you and them?
There's a little bit of understanding of other people that I have. I feel that I got that from my mother's side, that I can take someone's situation and put myself in their shoes. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they're going through something that I don't understand. And it's been a blessing to me to have compassion on others regardless of how they act, because I can place myself in their shoes.
That's so cool. And I can promise you, as you do more genealogy, as you do more of your family history work, you're going to find more and more characteristics like that. So you already have this great ability to understand people, but I know there's a lot more abilities that your ancestors have that you also have. And I want to share one of the stories I actually found about my ancestors that has helped me understand myself better. I actually have a picture of her, if you want to. So this is her when she was young. Name is
Cool.
Anne Rowley. And it's really cool. On FamilySearch.org, you can look up all the pictures of people that have gone before you that I don't know, maybe your grandparents added in or that they had. And when you see a picture of him, you realize, well, this was like a real person. And she actually was one of the pioneers that crossed the plains going towards Utah. And she tells a story as she was crossing, and I'm just going to read it to you, that I found. It says, "The life of Anne Rowley, a pioneer woman in the early days of the church, demonstrates how exercising faith impacts our life for good. A widow from England, Sister Rowley exercised her faith to answer a prophet's call to gather to Zion. She was a member of the Willie Handcart Company when she encountered deep snowdrifts along the trail in the fall of 1856. They had reached a point in the trek where her 7 children were literally starving. She wrote, "It hurt me to see my children go hungry. Night was coming and there was no food for the evening meal. I asked God's help as I always did. I got on my knees and remembered 2 hard sea biscuits that had been left over from the sea voyage. They were not large and they were so hard they could not be broken. Surely that was not enough to feed 8 people, but 5 loaves and 2 fishes were not enough to feed 5,000 people either. But through a miracle, Jesus had done it. So with God's help, nothing is impossible. I found the biscuits and put them in a Dutch oven, and covered them with water and asked for God's blessing. I then put the lid on the pan and set it on the coals. When I took off the lid a little later, I found the pan filled with food. I kneeled with my family and thanked God for his goodness. That night, my family had sufficient food."
Incredible.
Yeah, and it makes me think a lot of my family, about what characteristics I have. And one of the things that I feel like I really have and have noticed as I've been on my mission and as I've tried to serve God is that I have faith. I have faith that if I needed to and God needed me to, I could put 2 hard sea biscuits in a Dutch oven and it would become a meal. I've never quite experienced anything like it, but I know it's possible. And I know that through faith and through obedience, that all things are possible. And reading about my ancestors and seeing that they had the same ability makes me realize it's real. That it's not just me making up stuff about myself, but that when we search out our ancestors, we can find stuff about ourselves. And we would just invite you to do a little bit of searching in your ancestors, to get a familysearch.org account, and to look up your family members, see if there's any photos, see if you can find some stories, and then look and see what traits you have in common. And the next time we meet, we'll ask you how that went.
Sure.
Will you do that?
I will.
Awesome. I know that you'll find more stuff about yourself as you do that.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know more about my ancestors through the family search and those stories that would come into my life.
And one thing about family history work is it's a spiritual work. That as you put prayer into it, you're going to find the right stories and the right people to affect your life at that time. So make it prayerful and ask the Lord what you need to do, and I can promise in the name of Jesus Christ that you'll get answers. And we say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.